Hello and welcome to t.w.i.c. I'm Cody. I'll be one of your co-hosts today.
And I'm LeNora. I'll be your other co-host for today.
So t.w.i.c. stands for This Week in Childfree. We talk about any recent or relevant articles, events, happenings in and around the child-free community. If you'd like to submit something and you might see it in a future episode, please email it to childfreemedia@gmail.com and put t.w.i.c in the subject line so it stands out to us. And actually, we have a couple of suggestions in today's episode, so thank you for doing that. Childfree Sister sent some of those in, so thank you. Before we start, quick shout out to StreamYard for providing this cool streaming platform that you are watching and enjoying right now, and also to Childfree Wealth, a financial planning that supports your life without kids. For more information, please check out childfreewealth.com. So with that being said, this is live at the moment. It will be archived and recorded later. But if you happen to join us live, anytime we do one of these t.w.i.cs, you can make comments, ask questions, join us in the dialogue on the articles. And that's basically what this whole thing is I just kind of pull headlines on articles from the web. I don't really even read the stories. I just look at the headline. I'm like, okay, this might be interesting. LeNora has no idea what's coming her way. These are all complete live reactions to whatever it is that we're about to see.
And I no longer make apologies for how I react.
So with that being said, let's pull up our first article. This is from Vox.com. The heading is, or the title is, How to Navigate Dating When You Don't Want Kids. And this was one of the suggestions sent into us. So more American adults than ever say they likely won't have kids, although we're still a minority, is the little subheading there. This is by Hannah Singleton. Fortunately for me, I have nothing to say about this article other than reading it. Happily married, don't have to worry about dating and swiping and all that fun stuff. So we'll just see what they're talking about with dating without kids. And I wonder if that's child free, or does it say child free? Is dating when you don't want kids?
I am single without companion, like not even sleeping with anybody at the moment. So dating, this is not an area I'm great at. I've never really been a dater. So I'm curious.
I mean, yeah, let's see what it says. So this person starts with, I'm what researchers call an early decider, in quotations, when it comes to kids. I'm one of the lucky ones who's always known I don't want them. The sound of a baby crying makes my muscles tense, and whenever someone passes me their toddler, I hold them out in front of me with rigid arms, unsure of what to say or how to act. Compared to some child-free adults, I'm privileged to feel at peace with my decision. Well, I mean, I think this is me commenting here, like child-free adults, like I think a lot of child-free people, I would say the vast majority are at peace with their decision. That's why they say they're child-free, but that's just my understanding of what I think the definition is. They go on to say, I've rarely felt pressured from my parents. They're banking on one of my other 5 siblings to produce grandchildren. So this freedom has instilled confidence in this person's dating life. Just ask any of their friends. I'm steadfast and vocal about this topic. Let's see. And yet on a multitude of occasions, I've been swept up in the new intoxicating relationships with people who do want kids. In each situation, we've taken the, in quotations, we'll figure it out later approach, despite the fact that we had conversations early on, in parentheses, but apparently not early enough to avoid catching feelings, in parentheses. And spoiler alert, they go on to say it has never worked out. The kids versus no kids debate is too fundamental to disagree on. And this topic is relevant, like like the Facebook groups and Reddit and whatever it is. This comes up all the time as a topic from someone saying, I just started dating someone. I want kids. They don't want kids, or the other way around, depending on whatever forum or subreddit it is. And sometimes it's long-term relationships, people that have been dating for like 3 or 4 years, and like they just kind of beat around the bush to get to the point of whether or not they're going to continue the relationship or if they're going to have kids later in life. And so, LeNora, thoughts on this?
Okay, well, personally, I have this conversation long before there's the catching of the feelings thing. Unless I have met someone who's actually openly child-free or decidedly child-free as well, then but that conversation comes up right away. Now it's easy for me because the last 6 years, how have I been identifying as a child-free lifestyle advocate? That's the second or first thing out of my mouth when they ask, what's your name? Who are you? Or what do you do? Right. So it comes up in conversation naturally for me. So that's easy. But then also I don't date. So I just like fall into things. So I'm thinking like prior to me being really vocal about being child free, I was also an early decider, but let's see, 25, 26 is when I actually became actively dating or at least actively sleeping with people. And if you want further details, I've said all of that on the Child for Girls podcast, so none of this is a surprise to anybody. But I had that conversation early, like, I'm not having kids, because if I was sleeping with someone who would probably get me pregnant, then I'd be like, okay, well, look, we're, abortion's on the table. If something happens, like, there's no kids involved. And I just think it's I want to say it's the easiest thing to do is have that conversation up front, but clearly that's not easy for people to have. I'm thinking of, I won't say the person's name, but I'm thinking of somebody that we had on, or that we know, who was active in the child-free space, and she's married, and she turns out that it wasn't till later into the relationship that her and her now husband had the conversation about kids or no kids. So feelings were caught, all these sort of things. For me, I'm like, say it up front first. But again, that's because I'm decidedly child free. And also now I'm 40, next week, 41. So like, it's just a very obvious, clear that no, I'm not having children. But how many times have we've talked to people, or we see comments of like, yeah, someone changed their mind, or we found out later that they didn't want to have kids? Because I've been in a crush situation where it turns out the other person did want to have children, and before anything happened, I already made the decision, well, I'm not pursuing you or anything with you because you want kids. I know, and this was before I was even blogging. So I just think, although it temporarily sucks when you find out the person that you're into wants kids, like, get out while you can, unless you want to be in a position where you figure it out later. Like, I have no time, patience, or interest in figuring it out later, but I am adamantly like, I won't even get involved, like, date anybody that has children. So, and I guess it's probably a good thing that I am not big into dating, because I don't think dating as a child-free person is easy. Because
I would think that for sure. Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible. Like, dating has never interested me, because I'm like, I need to know if I like you already before I spend any amount of hours having dinner with you. And I mean, that doesn't even guarantee I'm going to like you after a week. So like, everybody's different, but I think that dating, I don't know how the rest of this article is going to go, but I think dating is challenging if you're a child-free person and you don't want to have kids, because you're probably going to meet someone that you do like, and they are going to want to have kids. Maybe not right now, maybe not with you, but they're going to want it at some point. And that sucks, because feelings are involved, and I hate feelings, but I have plenty of them, and it's just, and they're annoying to deal with. And yeah, I mean, good for you for being married, and you guys knew what you wanted and didn't want, and that's fantastic.
Well, let me just dive into that. That's I mean, it's interesting, because when we were dating, we're kind of on 14 years of marriage rate for us. But when we were dating, like, I didn't know the term child free existed. I didn't know that I was child free. I didn't know that was a thing. I was just whatever, going through life, and there you go. And so the topic never really like came up as it would, like, the way that I see the child free sphere now. Like, the conversation has gotten more out there. At least we see it that way because we're inundated in it. I'm sure outside of it, it's not so much. And that's why these conversations and topics keep coming up, and we keep seeing it in the community, is because people are just now kind of discovering what being child free is, or that there is an option to just, not have kids. So, when we were dating, when we had the conversation, it's like, do you want kids? And do you want kids? And we're both kind of like, not really. Like, I could pass on that. Like, and the fact that we both like clicked on that, and that's where it grew. Like, the seed was there, and having that trust in each other and knowing going forward that we were okay being a family of two, we were good to go. And
Yeah.
so that was before like anything child free in my mind. So I can see where people come from, where it seems like it's out of the blue and they're like, well, this person doesn't know if they want kids or not. They're just not familiar with the lifestyle and
No.
what it entails.
And I think like because it's so easily to casually be involved with somebody, especially now. But to be honest, like there's always some sort of attachment that forms very quickly, no matter how casual or the scenario is. And what I discovered, because I've done like the companion thing where I knew that I wasn't going to spend a life with this person. 6 years it turned into, because it's easy and it was like comfortable. But in one situation specifically, this person had fathered a child but never met the child, but was constantly like kind of haunted by the fact that there was a kid out there that they had financially supported until 18 but never knew. And then as he got older, because he was a decade older than I was, well, we're still a decade apart, but we're not in each other's lives. But anyway, because as he got older, he was like, well, I could be a grandfather. So, I mean, like, okay, even in a casual situation, I'm a child-free person blogging about being child-free, because at the time I was blogging about it. And I am, spending a considerable amount of time with someone that I know is not going to be a partner to me, but we enjoy each other. But I was still listening to the occasional thoughts and fact that, oh, this person's thinking about a child that they've fathered and don't know. That does affect me, because here I am building something that's about my choice not to have children. So even in that casual situation, because I will call it casual because it was, and there were feelings, but not like once we were done. But that still impacted my life, because then they were like, well, why are you talking about this? Right. So whether you're casual or you're seeing someone and feelings are involved or whatever, like I still feel like ultimately the person I'm spending time with in whatever level, it's so much easier when they know they don't want to have kids, because it does impact me. It impacts even if it's like, okay, we see each other once a week. Well, if this person's got a custody arrangement or whatever, like that's going to impact my life. And I am very specific about how I want to spend my time. So I don't, I feel like bottom line is to not talk about it regardless of whatever level the relationship's at. I think it does everybody a disservice.
Oh yeah. You're almost setting yourself up for failure if you know that you're child free and want to be child free. Yeah, that's not the way to go into it. I mean, it's just like hiding if you have like bad credit or ton of speeding tickets and terrible driver's license, insurance is awful, like whatever it is, like anything you're going to hold back from something that's going to become like a core tenet of your relationship later, like your finances or whatever it is, it's going to come out sooner or later in the wash. So
yeah, no, exactly. And I think and also, I mean, again, without knowing what's saying in the rest of the article, I think this still speaks to the fact that if people are too shy to speak out about it, that they don't want kids at the beginning of a relationship or whatever, beginning of even just getting to know somebody, I mean, that says how unsupported this conversation still is, because there are many people who, like, the first thing out of their mouth is, well, how many kids do you want? Right? Like, they're all happy to sit and discuss over coffee how many kids they eventually want. But no one wants to feel as confident or feels like they can say how many, like the fact that they don't want kids at all.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Well, let's see what it says. Let's see. Once unconventional, child-free lifestyles are increasingly common, according to a 2021 survey by the Pew Research Center, which we've covered in tons of these tricks before. Basically, 44% of non-parents aged 18 to 49 say it is not too likely or not likely at all they will have children. That's a 7% jump from 2018 data. And again, like statistics, you can say what you want. There's a little bit of ambiguity in that. So, I mean, 44% of not too likely to not likely at all is, to me, isn't the same necessarily saying you're child free. Like, again, that's the decisive choice.
And remember what happened in 2020 versus 2018, what we were living through at the time. People forget that we were all kind of in lockdown. So, I mean, of course, nobody was going to have kids.
And we're all kind of getting, quote unquote, back to normal in society.
Exactly.
So, yeah, those numbers can go down, and then there'll be all these new rave articles. It's like, oh, the people are
birth
looking
rate's
forward to
gone
having
up.
kids. Yeah. Oh, who'd have thunk it?
Well, thanks to Elon Musk and Nick Cannon, the birth rate has skyrocketed.
So with more and more people deciding they probably won't ever bring a child into this world, in parentheses, because they don't want to subject an innocent human to impeding climate crisis, or they simply don't want to raise them, in parentheses, dating as a child-free individual should be simple, right? Well, the majority of adults in the United States still want to become parents, and our deeply ingrained images of the traditional family structure makes things even trickier. People express more negative emotions such as moral outrage, pity, and disgust towards child-free adults than parents. I don't think we need a research study to say that, but there is one. So, plus,
Wow.
this topic is one heck of a deal breaker, in quotations. You get a job, you could always quit. You move to a new state, a new city, a new country. You can always come back. Anything can be undone, right? Says, oh, our friend Veronica at Child Free Connection. Hey, Veronica, it's good to see you in the article. A child is the one thing that can't be. It's the biggest possible decision as far as where the trajectory of your life is going to go. A friend of mine, Austin Martin, described this incompatibility as when you get a snag on a shirt and then it all starts to unravel.
That's really accurate.
So let me scroll a little bit here so we can get to the next article. There's nothing too mind-blowing in this. Let's see.
Yeah, can we just
I'm going to keep going. Looks like a long article. So check out fox.com and look for this if you want to read the whole thing.
Oh, let's talk about filtering your dating pool. Let's see what that's about.
So the heading, filter your dating pool. Once you're firm in your decision to be child-free, dating might seem easy. After all, you have a gigantic, glaring, obvious deal breaker. Find someone who shares that choice is the next hurdle. Dana Kama, I don't know, so 32-year-old, recently entered into the dating world after ending a 7-year relationship. And they quote, I would rather establish that I don't want kids right from the beginning, she says. I don't really want to waste my time or anyone anymore with finding something where we're just really lusty over each other. She sets boundaries before the first date. On dating apps now, it asks if you want kids, which is really helpful. So as I'm looking through profiles, I won't even bother with someone who says they want kids. They take Anderson, whoever that is, maybe, and I mentioned an article before, another person takes the approach a step further, not only checking they don't want children box in apps, but also writing it out on her profile. Okay, I would go and guess writing anything on your profile as a woman, men aren't going to read it. Like they're just.
You know what? I don't do apps. I've never had a dating app. I don't do. Oh God, I'm yeah. You know what? It's interesting. Okay, I'm kind of backtracking a bit, but I went to grade 11 and 12. I went to virtual school. So this was 2000, 2001. That's how old I am. So there wasn't apps back then. There wasn't even Wi-Fi back then. So I got really used to meeting my classmates in, like, we would meet virtually because I was taking all my core classes because I had a music teaching practice at a young age. And so that took all my time. And so I had to do my schooling online. So then, you get to know people just via text and then you meet them in person. This was long before online dating, I think, was really taking off because this was early. That cut out all desire I ever had to meet people online and use dating apps because of the experiences I had in virtual high school. So that I've never been able to bring myself to that. But on the other side, I have met people online because I am public about being child free. So I meet a lot of people that way, which is still online, and that doesn't necessarily work out either. But there's meeting people. It's easier. But also to the point, nobody reads. And I also, I'm bisexual. So you guys can figure that out, what I'm going to say next. So women tend to be more methodical if you are looking to date a woman or hook up with a woman. But then again, the child-free conversation is actually a lot easier because, well, they're not going to get me pregnant. But at the same time, there's a lot of single moms looking to date women. So it's really... that isn't really an answer either.
Yeah,
I was not going to say everyone should become bisexual and then you'll find somebody, but you know what? That doesn't always work either.
my comment about not reading profiles, like that's like one of like
It's just
well, that's one of like one of the posts that's always in the child
God.
free forums
Yeah.
is they'll show the chat session between them
Yep.
and basically them and a guy. It's
Yep.
a woman and a man, and she's like, look at this guy like talking about wanting to have kids, and then they'll show the screenshot of their profile that says, I never want to have kids, I'm child free, or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, no, guys, they're not reading it anyway.
No, because then you find out that the person wants the guy has 20 kids and wants to date someone who doesn't have kids. But that like no, it's oh God,
that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on. So
Not
the next heading, communicate your intentions up front. Not everyone pays attention when they're swiping. So this is
do you know what swiping means? Because I barely know what swiping means.
That's something the kids do these days. I
don't
know. Some good old-fashioned in-person communication comes in handy. The easiest way is to ask a question, do you want kids, outright? But if being direct isn't your thing, you can bring it up in a more nuanced way. One person suggests the phrase, since I don't want kids, I'll be able to do this and that. And she explains it should be something where you're authentically putting it out there in the very beginning. So yeah, if you're not like that open in your child freeness, you got to be like, oh man, I love to travel with my freedom because I don't have kids and I don't plan on having kids or whatever. It's like, I don't know, how you want to word it. Let's see. Let's go to the next heading and see if there's anything. Ask follow-up questions.
I get the gist of this
article. I think so.
Is that like it's not easy. It's not easy. I don't imagine it's easy to date because I mean, it's yeah.
I mean, in general, I guess there's weirdos
No,
out there.
I don't think it is. I like meeting a lot of different varieties of people and just seeing what happens, whatever. But I think because I was not one that had a goal of being in a relationship or getting married or having kids. So the need to date, like it's different. And I'm wondering, I don't know, because you're a married child-free person. I know a lot of married child people, a lot of dating people, but I mean, like, it's just, it's what people like. It depends on if you want to be partnered or otherwise. Like, I was like, I like the idea of being partnered when I'm older, so that meant 20s and 30s solo and do things that kind of agree with where I'm at in my life. So I don't know. I still don't have a desire to date because that's a whole other conversation.
that's a different.
I don't think that I will like it's. I don't know. It's easy. I guess here's the thing. It's easy for me to meet people. It's very easy, and I'm also very out there and also very outgoing. So it's easy for me to meet people, and then I decide what I want from there.
LeNora's not hard to find people.
No. No, I don't have a dating application on my website, but I'm thinking about it. If you're interested, fill out the form and we'll take it from there.
All right.
Okay.
Next website, let's see, missdaakustudio.com, MRSDAAKUSTUDIO.com. The heading is, where will their money go? 17 child-free people reveal their legacy plan.
Ooh, I don't think you should do that, but okay. Like,
I mean, you don't want to end up on like, Dateline or 2020 like that. You don't say who's getting anything, but anyway. So number one is cousins and their kids. So maybe not. That's not even siblings. I'm surprised about that. So they're cousins.
You know what? This picture's making me hungry. This is a whole bunch of kids eating pizza. I'm hungry right now. Okay.
The wording under it is, the closest thing I have to siblings is my cousin. So I'd leave it to them and their kids. I want it to be a random inheritance from an uncle halfway across the country. So basically, like in the movies, like you have been bequeathed like X tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Here you go. Like, go buy whatever, a jet. So best friend. So you should get a whole bunch of new friends as a child-free person. They're going to start to come to you and be your best friend. So someone who is 37, female, unmarried, no kids, no siblings, and therefore no nieces or nephews. My best friend is a selfless woman who's taken in her 3-year-old nephew at 31 and gave up her life. If it's an unexpected death, it's all left to her so she can have the life she desires. So she basically, like, her friend is sacrificing her life to take on her nephew and raise him. So she's like, here you go.
You know what? It makes me glad that my oldest nephew is turning 18 next week and my youngest nephew is 13 because I'm like, I've made it clear to my brother, don't make me guardian because I've had this discussion many times. I will always be an active aunt, but I, under no circumstances, want to be a guardian of an underage kids. And reading this scenario makes me go, I'm so glad my nephews are growing up.
What is this? What is it? They make me sign up for something. I don't want to. There we go. Keep going. All right. So siblings.
Yeah. Assuming you like them.
This person says, my siblings, hopefully it will make their lives easier. I'm the oldest and probably the most unhealthy, so I doubt I will outlast them. But if I did, I'd want my money to go to someone less fortunate. Well, that doesn't mean your siblings, but okay. So a trust fund, which is kind of random because that can go to any number of things. I'm going to create a trust that pays many people who hate each other to reunite each year for skills competitions like musical instruments they don't know, foreign languages, wilderness survival, boxing, etc. They get a 1-year notice of what skill will be tested and then are told a week before where to meet. That is awesome.
I have so many questions, and that's a fantastic answer and hilarious. You know what they should do?
I want to be your friend just in general because that is cool.
I want that to go to like world leaders who need to freaking figure stuff out, like Trump and I was gonna say our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in there, but I don't know.
My thought on like world leaders and wars, like if there's going to be a war, I think that the people in charge, you should go fight. Like you should be on the front lines of that war. I don't care who it is. Like, and you watch how fast the wars all stop because they don't want to do it. Anyway, that's the whole.
That's such a great answer. I mean, okay.
Yeah. So next, nonprofits, kind of a no-brainer there. Let's see what they say. My son is never having children. He intends on spending every last penny on himself. And if there's anything left over, he will leave it to animal nonprofits. So that person wrote on behalf of their child. So, okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Spend on an expensive funeral.
That sounds like something I would do, but I would be there to enjoy it.
Glitter bombs going off and like a full orchestra, orchestra. Like you'll pop out of it and start conducting it. Who knows? All right, let's see.
The funny thing is I've stated in my will, because by the way, this is totally a PSA for estate planning. I did mine when I was 34. So that includes personal directive, power of attorney, and a will. I have stated very clearly I do not want a funeral unless I'm super famous, and then there will be a parade in downtown San Francisco and I will be buried on Alcatraz Island. Actually, I don't think I legally have that in there. I was just saying that to the lawyer and she laughed. But I do not want a will, and actually I recently just told my dad that I'm not having a funeral because I am a cult survivor and that is still part of my dad's life. And I, under no circumstances, wanted any of that language or any of that, because they have specific funerals. And my dad wants one of those funerals. So I was like, under no there's no way that I want any of that to infiltrate what would be my funeral, which probably if my dad were still alive or people that I'm friends with or still know, I don't want that apart. So it's really important for me not to have a funeral. So, right. So I love this idea of having an expensive funeral because that's totally a LeNora thing. But in reality, I'm not having a funeral.
I think we can combine this with the person that had the trust fund, have at the funeral, you have the money booth in the corner that has money shooting up and everyone gets to go in and get your money. Your ashes might be in there with it. Who knows?
Oh God. Yeah.
But you set up physical challenges for people to take in.
Paying having a nice party for your friends and loved ones. I think that would be fun. But yeah, everyone would have to be glitter. Everyone would have to wear a wig. I could just
wigs at the door. Wigs at the door.
Yeah, it would just be this grand opulent event. But the only thing is I wouldn't be there to see it. And so I kind of don't want to do that. I'll just make parties or do things opulent now and we'll go from there. Who knows? Anything's still possible.
The next heading is charities, which I don't know how that's different than nonprofits. They should be the same, but
okay.
There are nonprofits and not for profits, so that might be it. I don't know. Let's see what they say. We are all dying out here, and currently it's up to the richest 1% to determine what gets funded worldwide. If more child-free people made that choice, it could make a real difference in the philanthropic landscape. True. Spend and donate on dog-related charities.
Definitely not doing this.
So
Sorry.
it says, let's see, I'm going to spend it on myself and my wife. Anything remaining will go to some dog-related charities. So again, like
It's very
dog-related
Bob
charities,
Barker.
nonprofit, and those three things are kind of all the same. This isn't 17 right now. This is really 15
Speaking of
things.
which, I'm going to interject here because
Yeah.
of course, I'm a big celebrity gossip person. So when anybody dies, especially someone who has passed that didn't have kids, it's amazing how that question pops up on Google. So Bob Barker, host of The Price is Right. So this is
Have
for
your
you
pets spayed or
Americans here
neutered. Yeah.
who knows. Yes, exactly. So he didn't have children. I didn't even know he was child free, but him and his wife, who has already passed away as well too, they chose not to have children. So people were like, I think even Entertainment Tonight, when he died, they did a whole, of course, memorial thing, tribute to him. And they mentioned, because I think that was one of the questions they even addressed, was like, where was his estate going to? But it was supposed to go to like many of the animal charities and types of things that he supported.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he had a foundation. Now, this one's sad. So this Matthew Perry, Friends actor, total shocking death. I wouldn't classify him as child free because he recently came out saying that he felt ready like to pursue like marriage and having kids, but he died, didn't have kids. So, but his family has set up a foundation. So I imagine that his estate, I mean, this is a recent death. So I imagine that, so
Yeah.
it seems like his estate will cover that, fund that. So it's really fascinating when celebrities who don't have children, whether by choice or circumstance, pass. People want to know, well, who's inheriting their wealth, especially if it was a known wealthy person, right? Because not all celebrities are wealthy. But you know, it's a fascinating conversation, and you know, it's it kind of, there's a whole offshoot with like the whole leaving a legacy, blah 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 blah, right? But it's interesting that people do want to know, oh, they didn't have kids, well, who's getting their money?
Exactly.
And how can I get some? Like that seems to be like their follow-up question. But it's
how do I enter into the physical challenge games? How do I do this?
But it is a really interesting, like Prince, I don't think Prince didn't have children, but he didn't leave a will. And so all of his siblings have been fighting for years because he's been dead for a while. They've been fighting over his estate for years. So get a will, people. Anyway, we can keep going on this article, but it's, you know, it's fascinating. Death and where does your stuff go? If you have stuff.
Depends upon the situation is the next heading. So that could be anything.
Did they use a priest as a photo?
They did. Yeah. For those that are watching the video, there's a image of a priest with his hands like, I don't know. All right. So let's see. The quote here is, it depends on who is important to us. At the moment, it's my husband, but if we both go, it's my parents and best friend. We will likely outlive them, so our nieces and nephews are next in line. We decided to base it on who tries to stay in contact with us. If no one does, it will all go to charitable organizations, maybe friends. We don't owe anyone just because they're family. No one makes an effort. I've actually heard that before from some Childfree people where they say, like, they know that they're like family members are expecting to like get something when they die, but like they're basically like keeping like a list, and it's like, yeah, like if they don't reach out to them or ever call them and see how they're doing, it's like, yeah, they're not on the list. Like that's
well, and this is again why it's good to have something prepared, even if you don't have a lot of money or you don't anticipate having a lot of money, because you know, anyone left behind, like someone else is going to decide who's looking after your stuff or making decisions on your behalf. And if this is a situation where no one's made an effort in your family, and that's the first next of kin, there, you know, every state, province, whatever has a list of criteria on what's considered next of kin. But again, you know, just imagine if you do have a couple things that you'd want and it went to the people that didn't give a crap about you. Even though you're dead and you technically don't care, you're thinking about it now. So
maybe more people would be nicer to Childfree people if they thought, like, I should probably be nice to this person.
But then it's so not genuine. I would rather have someone genuinely not like me than pretend to like me, because that backfires at some point too.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to you, Cody.
Let's see.
You've been pretending to be nice to me for a very long time.
Give me all your money. Again, like this is family, and again, like I feel like the 17 can be ticked down to like 10. I think they're just taking some and bursting them out here.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. The quote here is, my family, and if not them, then I'm hoping to become a grandma figure to someone and pass it down to them or a friend, I don't think I'll care what happens with it because, well, and I've heard that from some people before as well. Like if it's not gonna be family, like they even say they're gonna try to find someone that's in like the foster system and be like bibbity bobbity millionaire. Like just who cares? Like that person
Do you,
has a head start in life, whatever's gonna happen.
do you think people like really, really think about it? Because like what does that mean? I mean, I don't gosh, this is a conversation that I'm really careful about how much I share, but like I've been on the receiving end of inheritances, and like it's an interesting dynamic. It's a really interesting experience, and but when I think of like how I've set things up and what my current plans are as far as like if something happened to me right now and what I have set up, like it's just it's kind of it's a very offhanded thing because nobody I don't think people really understand the concept or grasp it, and I can understand because how would you really know? I grew up like my dad was very because of his line of work. He talked to us about these sort of things a lot from a young age, so I grew up with an understanding of wills and estates, like not like from a legal perspective, but why certain decisions were made. So I guess it's easy for me to say people just are just kind of casually putting it out there. And I'm referring to an answer like this. But I
Yeah.
think in reality, people don't know what that means to leave something to somebody. And then how does that person receive it? And
Mhm.
to be honest, I shouldn't say there can be a certain level of guilt
I was gonna
or
ask you that. Yeah,
expectation.
yeah,
And I don't talk about this because I don't want to. And I don't also think it's the right platform to do so. But it's a really interesting experience, and everyone experiences an inheritance differently.
yeah,
But there has to like it's a conversation that needs to be had, not necessarily on this platform, but people are, of course, we know people are awkward about talking about money. But again, it's a concept that people aren't open enough about, and we hear about a lot of famous people who are like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and like wealthy beyond imagination people that say they're only leaving their kids a tiny like a
yeah.
fraction, which is still most than
It's
what
still like whatever.
I've not experienced that level by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah,
But I can understand why, because there's a burden. And if you're not prepared, if you have no understanding, if you're emotionally like there's emotions, there's so many things that come with it that people don't understand, whether you're giving or receiving. And
yeah,
I'm one day want to explore that topic and concept with people I don't know how, but it, it would shed some light on even why it's important to have something set up or think about who and what you're giving. Because
mhm,
again, when you're dead, you're not going to know what the ripple effect is, but there always is a ripple effect. And it is amazing how there is an emotional, I'm going to say an emotional burden when you inherit something.
yeah. I could
And I'll
totally
leave it
see
at
that.
that. But that's a
Yeah,
conversation that I don't think people have ever had, or it's not one that's been had publicly. And there's something there that like it's weird, and it's also not a conversation you can really have around public round table around, because no one's gonna feel sorry for you. No, they'll be like, oh fuck you, you got some money, you didn't have to do anything for it. It's like, right? So it's like if you've experienced it, you kind of understand, and then everyone's got a different experience with it. So
yeah.
it's not
Well,
it's
you're you're taking on a custodial role of this person's entire like
yeah,
sum of worth,
e-
like financially. Like this is
exactly.
them, and you get
and
it. Like,
and I
hey, here.
think and it's easy to not care about that or see it
Mhm.
that way, but I suspect, and this is something my dad used to say something to me specific, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it makes sense that yeah, when you're younger you would never consider certain things. When you're
Mhm.
older, like I'm going to say after the age of 30, and you've had some life experience with money or without money or whatever the situation is, you handle it differently than when you would when you're younger, when you have no concept of the world or limited concept of the world. And there's just, yeah, it's bizarre. And so something about this answer triggered like there's a lot like you think about when you're leaving something to somebody, would they be able to handle it? I'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that. Would they be able to handle it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or and if you don't care, fine. But if you do care, think about it.
Yeah. Good points. Heritage Railways. Is this a commercial? I don't know what that is. That is a commercial, I think.
Is
No,
it?
wait, that's a thing. No,
No.
it's actually a thing.
Oh, okay.
I plan on having some money donated to a few heritage railways. I don't know what specifically I don't know what that word is, railway. I don't know what that word is, railway. And the
Are these
Bluebell
American or no?
Thank God for the Bluebell
Oh.
Bluebell Railway. I
This
can say
isn't
that
Monopoly. There's no what is it? What is it? The Reading Railroad?
The
What is
rest will go to various family members. What does that mean? There's literally a picture of like a high-speed train, Heritage Railways. Heritage Railways. I plan on having some money donated to a few Heritage Railways.
That sounds like an American thing.
I mean, the words are not American. Like the first one, I'll just spell it. TALYLLYN. Talion.
A heritage railway, so this is U.S. usage, is a railway operated as living history to recreate or preserve railway scenes of the past. So that's what that is. That's a cool idea.
Yeah. The other one is actually FFESTINIOG.
Festinoig.
We'll go with that. All right. Next is funding education. I've heard this from people as well before.
Yeah.
This person says, our dream is to fund education for small town disenfranchised kids who get called stupid without being taught anything or sent to attention every day for being brown. I think they mean
detention.
Detention, not attention.
Look, I'm a brown girl. I wasn't sent to detention. What the heck? Okay, I got attention for being brown, but I wasn't sent to detention for being brown.
Next one's
okay, I like that idea.
Planned Parenthood. Again, that can fall under the nonprofit giving. Yeah. So again, like these 17 things, the bots are really stretching these out. Animal rescue, they've already talked about that. A young woman, that sounds all kinds of weird. Okay. But let's see what they say. Whatever's left will go to an amazing young woman who has dealt a bad hand from birth, but has perceived and succeeded against the odds. She'll not get an inheritance from her family and deserves her own home.
Well, okay. All right. Okay. Back to my point earlier. First of all, you're dead. Okay. So you said in a will that you want the money to go to a person that fits this criteria. First of all, who is your executor? Do they understand what that means? Okay, so my executor is my brother. If I said something like this, that would mean my brother would have to somehow find somebody on his own time, because you can decide, at least here in Alberta, I don't know, I won't speak for any other place, but you can decide if your executor gets paid or not, right? So they have to, people think about this, for example. Think about this for a moment. That's what I meant to say. You have somebody that you've appointed in charge, and hopefully they know that they're in charge of your estate. They are the ones that have to go out and look for this. Okay, do they have time? Do they have the resources? Because they could just pick some random person off the street, and then you have to get lawyers involved. Like, I mean, there's a lot.
Well, maybe this person knows. Like, maybe they're being vague with their verbiage. Like, we'll be left to an amazing woman. Maybe then it's Susie Q. Like, whoever they already know who it is.
Fine. But all right, I'm hoping because
no, I see where you're going. If they're vague about it, it's like, well, what does LeNora mean by like these stipulations?
Also,
and
this is why you have to have a will, because the courts are not going to do this for you if you don't have something in place. No court is going to be like, oh, I think this, like, unless you have it stated, but then they're going to appoint someone who will go out and do this for you. If you don't, if you just want some random person who is, amazing, when has been dealt a bad hand, I mean, that could be someone just holding a street sign. Like, you like, really? So when I see answers like that, I go,
if you have a really lazy executor, your executor is driving down the street like, done, here's a bag of money, sign this form, please, I'm out. Like,
so look, also there's a lot of paperwork to get that money first, and it's never handed to you in a bag. So.
No, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, okay, all right.
I don't know what people think when they come up with this stuff. Sorry, I'm in a but
so scholarship fund is the next heading, but that's almost the same thing as education. So poor people or relatives. Again, they've already kind of mentioned that. And then
Okay, all
it's the
right, I
end of
get
this.
the
Okay,
idea.
so
People,
there we go.
I
So
feel like
17 things is really like 8 things, maybe 8 things. That's being generous.
we're not going to answer who we're leaving our money to. We're leaving our money to Childfree Media.
There we go. So this one is HuffingtonPost.com. Child-free with a hyphen. Child-free but undecided. And then what it's like to live with parental FOMO. And the reason this kind of struck me
making assumptions.
Is well, number one, it's like if you say you're child-free, like parental FOMO it can come, but it's going to go relatively quick. Like it's not going to be like a hard driving force. If not that, then you're more of a fence sitter than child-free.
But also, can I point out that we did have a panel talking about child-free regret.
Yep.
Which you were there because you were moderating.
I was awake.
You were awake. I don't remember the questions we asked, but we did cover.
They were excellent questions.
Were and excellent answers because it was. Yeah.
All right. This is by Brittany Wong. Let's see. Just to try to dive into real quick. In the last few years, we've heard a lot about people choosing to be child-free with a hyphen. I wish they would correct that. But there's another conversation worth having. Many people, especially women in childbearing years, are child-free but worried about parental FOMO or fear of missing out. What if one day they'll regret? What if one day they'll regret about the decision to not have kids? Financial worries only compound the anxiety. Many millennials and Gen Zers say that they are foregoing parenthood, at least in part because they can't afford to have kids. In parentheses, the average cost of childcare is estimated to be over $9,000. I believe this is USD. This is probably US based per year. Pressure from others makes it worse. Let's see. Commentary from the pro-parental camp includes everything from you might regret it someday, who's going to take care of you when you're older, bingo, bingo, bingo. You've never known true love until you have a kid. And the aggregate statements like those cause many younger people to question their own desires, even when they feel firm in their decisions, says a psychotherapist in private practice in South Philly. Some clients, this is them quoting it, some clients wonder if there's something wrong with them for not being prepared for that phase of life. Women especially are trying to navigate the differences they experience in comparison with their mothers and how society shapes their identity in reference to children and marriage. And just to kind of stop here for a second, that's why the conversations that like us and other people in the child-free sphere that are having are important, so people can find these conversations and get engaged and have these open dialogue questions with each other. Like we see often in child-free communities, they'll literally just ask us blank statement question. Hey, I've got a question for child for people that are over 50 or over 60 or whatever it is. And they literally just want to ask these types of questions to see how their life is going. And so, here's that 2022 Michigan State University study that found 1 in 5 adults polled did not want children. There was no difference in life satisfaction between them and those who did have children.
I mean, and to that point, like I believe it. I mean, again, you've always said this, that numbers can be skewered to like say whatever you want. But look, if somebody wants children and has children and someone doesn't want children and doesn't have them, why wouldn't they have equal life satisfaction? Because they're both getting what they want. I think people forget that because, I mean, I love the child-free community, but there are some people that believe that anyone with kids should be just downright miserable and that there's no way a person who has kids can be happy. And I don't believe that's true for a second, because if you wanted children and you have children, chances are you're going to, for better, for worse, enjoy your life, because we can always get what we want, but that doesn't always mean we're satisfied or happy. So, so people with kids can be happy and people without kids can be happy. And and if that's what they both wanted, then I just find it funny that people come and say there's no difference in happiness, but there are some who have kids that like the only way you can be happy is with a kid, which we also know is not true. So yes,
there is no happiness Olympics. Like there isn't. Place.
If children make you happy, if not having kids make you happy, happy is freaking happy. And it's amazing on both sides of the spectrum, children or no children. people have problems with that when the other person's happy with the thing they don't want, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird.
Well, you raise a good question, and it kind of flips the script on this article where it's child-free people having parental FOMO, but there are parents that have FOMO of what would my life be like if I didn't have kids. It
Right.
doesn't mean that they hate their kids or they regret their life or that they're unhappy, but they might have those fleeting, fear of missing out moments as well, and be like, what did I miss out on if I had done this or that or this or that? And I would say it's kind of like a scale of, I can't experience that because I'm not in those shoes, but like I'm super happy being child free. If I did have a worry or a question about, what would it be like? I can only imagine a super happy parent would think the same thing about their life. It's like, oh man, could I be an astronaut right now or whatever their dream was if I didn't have kids? But it's a fleeting like kind of thought. So I mean, like I wouldn't call it like a fear of missing out. It might be more of like a wondering, like a what if type of scenario.
Well, and the thing is we what if about everything. I mean, like, what if your house burns down? Like it's just I think it's challenging to live in the moment anyway, because we're inundated with a lot of things. We have a lot of options, even if you feel like you don't. Like there's just and how life has been. If you think about what we were taught in school, because we're roughly the same age, if you think about what we're taught, what was expected of us. And a lot of things that we were taught are kind of obsolete now. Because I remember getting in trouble for having messy handwriting, and no one knows how to handwrite anymore. Like, all the things that exist, and even like for me, I got in trouble for talking a lot in class, like, believe it or not, right? But now there's a thing called podcasts. Like
there's a career.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of things that we were taught to expect don't exist now.
Yeah.
And let alone when we're another 20 years from now. So this whole anxiety, it's not to diminish any fear or anxiety that people have about the future, but it's just like things change and options occur, and half the things that we'll be doing in 20 years we can't even fathom now, and that's not a bad thing.
Like the big fear right now is like AI and how that's going to change things.
Right.
We have no idea really. Like 5-10 years from now, we might look back and be like, man, that was either blown out of proportion or we really should have paid attention to that. Like, who knows?
Right.
We'll
Because people were scared of the internet and cell phones, I think. And my 10-year-old nephew, my nephew, he was 10, he had a cell phone, and that was normal. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have one in college.
Yeah.
So, because that wasn't normal then. So it's, things change. But I hope that not having children becomes one of those things that for the most part, people go, oh, okay, cool. Some people think we're already there, but we're not. Because it's easy. Like, I live in a bubble where I can easily be that way. But in reality, it's still, Yeah.
All right. So the next heading, I think this is a person's perspective. Lanika Yule, 32. And they quote, I have genuine fear over what kind of a world I'd bring a child into. So I don't think that would be necessarily FOMO. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, how is that?
That doesn't make sense to the topic of.
It's because they're talking to four women and one man who are dealing with parenthood indecision. Okay, so where's the FOMO part?
Okay.
We have to find the FOMO part, because this isn't FOMO
so
at
about
all.
2 years ago, this person who's in British Columbia initiated a conversation with their partner about the prospect of having kids. It was basically went like, I need you to know that I'm a maybe on having children, and that and that is different from being a no for now and a yes later. The difference being that I truly do not know whether I want children, and I don't want us to be accidentally operating under an assumption that I will get to a yes on having children at a later date. That's a lot of words for not on the topic here of the heading. I'm trying to find out what this person's worried about with the.
Okay, keep going. It's all about medical, giving birth, all that stuff. All the things that guys don't have to think about when they are talking about having kids. Okay, keep going. There's
okay, so I guess this is
I don't know. This is still not answering the question.
It has nothing to do with the world going to heck.
No.
All right, anyway.
So it's like what it's like. Okay, well, the part of the article is what it's like to live in ambiguity.
Okay.
But we want to talk about the FOMO.
All right, Logan Kelly, 25. Will I get to a point later on where I wish I have had kids when I was younger?
Talk to my brother. He had them at 19. He'll set you straight. He'll tell you
Let's
what it's like.
see. When this person, Logan, thinks about having kids, he feels a constant dissonance about where his priorities should be. In quotations, much of culture seems to be pushing that I should be having kids, while I feel I can contribute in more meaningful ways to the world right now as a single person.
Okay, you know what? I love that response. That is fantastic. And I
This person's
think
a teacher and a professional theater music director
in Utah,
in
of
Utah.
all places. So, first of all, that's an awesome mentality to have, especially in Utah. But I think that's such a great way of stating it. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope more people feel or take that feeling to heart if they do feel that.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of things. He's like, he should be having kids or should I have kids? Like the minute it's outside pressure and it's not really coming from you, that really is the answer. Right? Because if you have this distinctive drive and you know it's coming from you and not from what people are, where your priorities should be,
Mm-hmm.
no one really gets to tell you, or they do, but they really don't have the right to tell you what your priorities should be unless you're working for them. But then that's in like an office setting. But when it comes to your life, you get to decide.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, like that part is missing, I think, when we're developing as humans, wherever we live. It's that you are a priority, but we're taught, especially being female, we're taught that we're not the priority, we're secondary, which is complete BS. And then you find out when you're 40, oh my gosh, I could have done life differently all these years. And that doesn't mean like you would have chosen to not have kids, but it's just that it's that mind fuck of like all that expectation. And people think that doesn't exist anymore, but it does.
Yeah. Let's see. If Kelly wants to, he can keep himself busy with a dozen or more shows a year through his various works and theater projects. He told HuffPost he ends up teaching close to 1,000 people,
That's amazing.
many of whom are high schoolers or young adults. So, I mean, yeah, this person's contributing without having kids. And let's see. I often think if I had a family, I wouldn't have the time to take on as many of these projects. I'm just going to pause right there because a lot of times people that are child free will say, well, I can do this because I don't have kids. And you might get lambasted and be like, well, parents can do that too. Yes, parents can do that too. But I think what they're not taking away is that person saying that they know as who they are, they would not dedicate to the time or the resources of doing whatever that thing was. If they had kids, they would be focusing more on the kids and less on the thing. They're not saying that just because they're child free, they can do things that parents can't do. Like that's,
So this is where I can use some of my like obsessing over celebrity articles, and I can't think of who it was. The minute this is done, I'm gonna remember who I'm talking about. But I was reading an article on people.com or something about some dude who was feeling guilty for having a lot of kids, but spending all of it like focusing on the career. But I don't remember who it was. But that was to this guy's point of that he was really focused on his career, had children, but who was it? It's coming to mind because they said that they were home. Someone was married to, it was a musician. He was a musician.
Okay.
Musician.
That narrows it down.
No, I know. I'm just like, I can see the article. I can't think of who it was. But anyway, they'd be on the road for 3 months, home for 2 days, have these kids, have to go away again. And anyway, it was something to do with marriage, whatever. But I watched the Sylvester Stallone documentary Sly on Netflix the other day. Now, of course, I mean, Sylvester Stallone, big actor, all that good stuff. And he talks about, because he's in his 70s now, his kids are grown. And he was talking about his guilt, parental guilt, for being the success that he was, and that and how that did affect his family and the time that he didn't have with his kids because he was always away. So I'm saying this in support of this gentleman here, who is recognizing that he's passionate about what he does, all this time devoting to these projects that mean a lot to him, that are contributing in many ways that he knows and doesn't know about. And it's true because yes, he could still do this career and have a quote unquote family, and there would be a sacrifice because they wouldn't see him as much, whatever, and he could do it, but does he want to? And if he doesn't want to do that, if he wants to have that career or doesn't think he can do both, one shouldn't be better than the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And who was that musician? I'm trying to think of who that was now. But anyway, like
I'm picturing like John Legend or somebody like that, but that's probably not.
No, it's not John. No, let me go on people.
I'm trying to think of male musicians that have lots of kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was this morning. I'm trying to think of who it was. Who was I don't know. The minute I'll text you, I'm like, oh, is this dude? Anyway.
All right. So Brittany Smith deciding not to have kids should be celebrated too. That's not really on the FOMO topic, but we'll see what they say.
There
Brittany
hasn't
Smith,
been really
yeah,
well,
a 30-year-old from New Jersey, didn't grow up with the picket fence nuclear family idea. So having kids of her own felt like it was a way to fulfill that dream for herself. Now, this Smith told the Huffington Post she is considerably less certain about having children, which sometimes feels like an existential crisis. If the right partner comes along, I'm almost certain that I would want to have a child. She's considering freezing her eggs, but hasn't quite crossed that bridge yet. When she's ready, she'll discuss it with her gynecologist, primary care doctor. I mean, this isn't really talking about.
no.
All right, let's go to the next person. There's an entire Chantel Dyson. There is the entire shift after the baby has arrived. Again, that's not a FOMO of not having kids. That's kind of what I was mentioning before about the maybe I don't know. Let's just go to this next article real quick because I put it in this order on purpose. This article is from The Guardian. Do people actually regret not having children? And the next thing is possibly not. So
they say possibly not instead of probably not, which is what
or definitely not.
But, yeah.
New research suggests that people who are child-free by choice are pretty happy with their decision, while some parents are not. Again, this is not a competition of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in my the definition of what a child-free person is, like you're happy with the decision to not have kids. Like it's inherent in that definition. You're happy with that decision. And so that may lead to more happiness in your life. So it kind of skews things a little bit when you think of it that way. But so it goes on to say, you'll regret it if you don't. You'll be lonely. Nobody will look after you when you get old. You'll miss out on one of life's greatest joys. You won't ever be truly fulfilled, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much every woman who's ever been on the fence about having kids has heard variations of the above, either from other people or from a little voice inside their own head. There is, to state the bleeding obvious, an intense societal pressure of women to become mothers. Mm-hmm. But do people actually regret not having children? New research suggests that they don't. Last summer, Michigan State University found that 1 in 5 adults, again, that same study, we found no evidence that an older child-free adult experiences any more life regret than older parents. In fact, older parents were slightly more likely to want to change something about their life. And there's probably all kinds of, again, statistics that go into that, and you can dive into it.
Oh, yeah.
But again, this isn't a happiness contest. This isn't the first study to suggest that it's the people who have kids who might be the ones who end up regretting their life choices. YouGov data, that's YOUGOV data from 2021, found that 1 in 12 British parents, 8%, say they currently regret having kids. Younger parents aged 25 to 34 were the most likely to feel regretful, while those aged 55 plus were the least regretful. Similarly, in 2013, a Gallup survey found that around 7% of American parents older than 45 wouldn't have had any kids if they had to do it over again. So, I mean, but again, looking at those numbers, I could say, well, you could flip that and say, well, 93% of parents are totally happy that they had kids. Like it's however you want to phrase the statistics.
Well, and it depends on what kind of mood this researcher caught them in, because
exactly,
like I to kind of wrap up, like I think of so I'm 41, my dad is 67, something like that. Enough time has passed since my childhood. All the things that I put my parents through on purpose, my dad doesn't even remember. Like, so I mean, he knows me, and my dad and I would say are friends at this point. And I was not someone who's naturally close to my parents, and I just have one living parent now. And so, when I think about it, my dad's going to say that he enjoys having children, because my brother and I are independent people, and we're friends with our dad, and my brother has 2 children, and my dad has a relationship with his grandkids. So as a whole, my dad's satisfied having kids, and him and
Yeah.
my mom chose to have 2 children. That's all they wanted. And I know I put them through the ringer, but my mom's dead, and my dad doesn't remember most of this stuff anymore because a lot of time has passed, and it's over, right? So
Yeah.
it really just depends. Like, my dad does not have children that depend on him or any of that stuff. And he lives a free retired life. Him and his wife travel, and she never had kids. So, I mean, like, if you were polling my dad, he would absolutely say 100% he would do having children over again, because
Mhm.
he got through it. And yeah, of course there were challenges, but does he remember? Not really.
Yeah.
So, honestly, like, if you're talking to someone like my brother who's 37 and has an 18 and a 13-year-old, he's out of the hardest part, per se, because as a single dad who's got his kids full time, I should add, and his is a little slightly different scenario, but he's gone through a lot. If you would have asked him 10 years, he wouldn't say he regrets it. No, he made his choice, and that's what happened. But the happiness level compared to someone like my dad, it's very different. So it's hard to make it.
Well,
Bottom line, I would not make a decision based on a survey.
yeah, no, I totally, yeah, I
Right? I don't think people
never,
do,
yeah,
but
never, like that 7%, like break that down, like what you're saying, like the 7% that found that they wouldn't want to have kids if they had a chance to do it over again. It could be like did they have a bad relationship with their kids? Did the kids, with the
or maybe their
what,
kids aren't
what
dependent or will never become dependent. Like, you don't know the
it could be,
circumstances of what they're going
it,
through.
but to me, like what percentage of that 7% were people who were truly on the fence about having kids and didn't really want them,
Mm-hmm.
but did anyway to please the partner or a family member or whatever it is, society, or that were child free and had a kid
Right.
to help. Same story. Like, to me, that's the truly regretful, is that you did something that you didn't want to do.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It'd
to
be
look,
like if I said I don't want a kid, but for some reason I'm gonna have one.
yeah,
Like, that's not me changing my mind. Well, like, okay, I'll have the kid. I still don't want one. Yeah, regret. For me, going, I didn't want to have children. I felt like life would support me however I needed to be supported. And I still stand by that. And that's how I view the future as well. Like, people are so adamant that at some point I will regret. But I'm like, well, if I
yeah,
didn't want them in the first place, I regret things like not practicing my scales more, because that would probably help me retrain my fingers to learn the violin. And I was lazy on that front. Um, like, that I do regret, but I'm okay. But that's because, like, I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to put in the work for that. But I still had a career as a violinist, even if I didn't practice my scales all the time.
yeah.
But to not want something, to truly not want something, I mean, I guess you could say you regretted not wanting, like, you don't regret not having kids, but maybe you regret not wanting, you regret not having the desire. But if you didn't
Mhm.
have the desire, you didn't have the desire, so you wouldn't think about it. Like, I don't know.
I mean, like,
Well,
it
weird.
mentions like the I regret having kids Facebook page, 59,000 followers, and
Oh,
there's like
yeah.
there's Reddit subreddits about it too, and like it's not healthy to like revel in someone else's misery, like in their stories that
Not
they
really,
post, like they're unhappy, and it's their outlet and mental health. And again, this is like the negative side of pronatalism that nobody wants to talk about. Like,
no.
pronatalism is like, yes, go forth, have kids, whatever it is, but it also browbeats parents into saying your mental health doesn't matter. Be happy and shut up,
Yeah.
and don't let anybody else know who's behind the curtain, that Oz isn't a real thing, like that it's not all going to be gumballs and mashed potatoes. Terrible example, but
Interesting combination. Okay.
yeah. So it,
On that note, I'm really hungry. It's
but
haven't eaten yet.
but I mean, again, just these two back-to-back topics about FOMO and who's really happier, and looking at statistics and looking at forums, and parents should be able to say that they could wonder what their life is like, and hopefully their kids would understand that. If they told their kids, man, I sure wish I was able to do all these things that I wanted to do, but I didn't because, again, of ABC or whatever it is, and kids. And so I don't know, there's so much guilt put on that, and it's not good. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'll try to land it and wrap it up, but statistics can be manipulated. Happiness, everybody's happy. If you say you're happy, if you're happy, if you're not happy, find your happiness, whatever it might be, but don't measure yourself against somebody else to try to stand on them to be happy. Like,
I think that's the thing, is that bottom line is we're all wanting to feel happy in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times we have to look to what other people, where other people are getting their happiness, just for inspiration, right? And a lot of people place their happiness on their children or having children or whatever, like parenthood, whatever, right? And so that seems like to be the easiest go-to, because there's enough seeming support for that choice. And not everyone wants to or knows that they can do a deeper dive into what brings you happy. I mean, I've spent all of 2023 trying to figure that out as a 40-year-old, and it's been exhausting. And I don't necessarily have answers, but I have a better idea than I did at the beginning of the year, as what will make LeNora happy in her 40s, because that's a very different answer from 30s, right? But I have the luxury of being able to do a deep dive into figuring that out. And one thing I will say is the answer is not having children. So rest assured that has not changed. But that's the thing. People, do look outwardly to see like what it is. And if people's like instant, oh, kids, okay, I'll do that. Right. So, but the bottom line is everyone does. My point is everyone does want to feel happy or satisfied to some degree. And so, it's just the narrative needs to be about like there are other options besides having kids. And that's kind of what we like to remind people as they're navigating through life.
So with that being said, LeNora, how can people find us?
Well, if we want you to find us, you can email us at childfreemedia@gmail.com. You can visit our website at childfreemedia.com, or if you're interested in social media, we are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at childfreemedia.
All right. And so with that being said, we'll wrap up this episode of t.w.i.c. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye.